Well, I'm Harry Mays, and here we are on February 3rd. It looks like the Eagles are set with their coaching staff, and we did not realize how valuable Kevin Patullo was. It took two guys to take his place.
I'm Jason Martinez, and I'm just happy that, I don't care how many guys it is, Nick Sirianni wasn't the answer to be the man calling plays.
And I'm Louie DiBiase. In light of the Vic Fangio news this week, I think letting Christian Parker go to Dallas was a huge mistake.
All right, I'm Marc Farzetta. Nakobe Dean did an interview recently, and he talked about the offense's frustration throughout the season. We'll break it all down in more of this edition of Locked On Eagles Squad Show.
Fly, Eagles, fly. It's the Eagles Squad. Everything Philadelphia Eagles every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the city of brotherly love. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Eagles Squad Show starting now.
And welcome into the Locked On Eagles Squad Show. We're going to break it all down for you guys today. But first, we got to tell you that this particular show is brought to you by the amazing people at FanDuel. And what a week it is for FanDuel. FanDuel, last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Just go to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. We got a stay or go for you. We got Milton Williams speaking on Super Bowl opening night, which is always a party and a good time. Nick Sirianni's involvement, the needs of Sean Mannion, OC panic maybe, and Vic Fangio in or out. Louie, I'll start with you because I know it was your intro there. I feel like my emotions have been held hostage by Vic Fangio over the last week. We all talked about it. Now, I believe we all went around the horn last week and we're like, he's not retiring. He's not retiring. It wasn't about him. It was totally about him. He was totally contemplating retirement.
I believe I said it may be about him.
It may be about him. Okay. All right. You might be the only one. Good Lord, man. And then it comes out that he was doing the same thing last year. Jimmy Kempski puts it out there on Philly Voice. He was thinking about retiring last year. I look at Vic Fangio, Louie, as the adult in the room, the dad in the room, the regulator when he got a bunch of goofballs running around that don't know what the hell they're doing. And the idea that he was threatening, or at least contemplating the idea of, hey, you know what? I'll call it a career. You know, I'll go to Phillies games and just enjoy my retirement from this point on, is a scary thought at the very beginning of the offseason, Luigi.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, it does sound like he'll be back for the 2026 season. My bigger issue with all of this, because Fangio is an older coach, I think we all knew he wasn't going to be here for another, 10 plus years, right? I think you knew it's probably a 3 to 5 season window. My bigger problem is if you've known this is a possibility for 2 seasons now, not just this offseason, but after the Super Bowl, maybe they don't see Christian Parker in the same way I do, but how do you let that guy get out of the building? And look, Dallas offered him the defensive coordinator job for this year, so it's not like you could totally control what Christian Parker did, but I think he's one of the best up-and-coming young defensive coaches. He's been with Fangio since the Denver days. You could keep that scheme in place. It would have been a seamless transition. I mean, look at how Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell both became all-pros in year 2, with Parker being a huge part of that. I don't know. I would have personally made him DC this year, and if not, if you want as many years of Fangio you can get, I would have tried to have been like, look, Parker, we'll give you an pay raise this year and then guarantee you the job in 2027. So that's my biggest takeaway, is a young coach just got out of the building that I would have loved to have be the heir apparent to Fangio.
And went to one of your division rivals,
and he goes to
too.
The rival. Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah. The other thing on top of that is Clint Hurt also interviewed for a job. That had me shaking in my boots. The fact that I was like, oh, well, Christian Parker's gone. If it is even true of speculation of Vic Fangio hanging it up and calling it a career, Clint Hurt's right there. And it's like, Clint Hurt will interview for the Dolphins, a defensive coordinator position. And I went, now, of course, he didn't end up getting it, but that's a scary thought. We've talked all about the uncertainty of the offense and what Sean Mannion could bring, and we'll get into that again on this show with a little bit more specifics. But the idea that you're going to have possibly another turnover defensively speaking, in terms of guys you don't know if you're bringing back or not. You could be looking at a guy like Nakobe Dean. You could be talking about picking up an option on Nolan Smith. There's other guys that we could talk about here on the Eagles defensive side of things. But the idea that you don't have the coordinator, the one guy you trust, Jason, is a horrifying thought. And I thought Kevin Patullo was going to be the horrifying thing of the offseason. Turns out that wasn't the case.
Yeah, it's one of those things with Vic Fangio. He's 67 years of age. He's a crusty old football coach, which is awesome, which is why we like him too. He's so to the point, and there's no fluff about him. He just seems like he was born for this job, and I'm glad he's going to be able to check it off his list when he retires. But when is he going to retire? And to me, this isn't Vic Fangio thinking about retirement. This is Vic. I think we need to term it differently. This is Vic Fangio thinking about how am I going to get a raise, because he knows his value. There is nothing more comforting when you knock on the owner's door or the boss's door and say, knowing when you say, I'm thinking about retiring, they know what you mean.
The Jason
You
Kelce
got to give
move.
me more money. Yeah. You got to give me more money or I'm out. And he's got the Eagles by the coyoons, and he knows it. He's no fool. And he's going, I'm just going to maximize a little bit of earning power here over my last couple of years before I go off into this football sunset. And that's just the way it is. And I feel like we've had this fear forever when it comes to defensive coordinators, because they're always like an older guy. Hudson was an older guy. They're not there for 20 years. You look back at even Bud Carson back in the day was in his twilight.
Well, he looked old when he was in his 30s. That guy.
He did.
Yeah.
But he was in the twilight when he was here.
Yeah.
So you always have that fear. And this huge strength of this Eagles team, the defense last year and going seasons prior to that, Vic Fangio's got a big piece of that. So it is scary. But, hey, the guy asked for a raise. There's no cap on how much you pay coaches.
Right.
So, hey, give him what he wants, make him happy. And like Louie said, though, I would have liked to have had the heir apparent have one more year under him. And the fact that you lose that guy to a division rival in the Cowboys is not lost on me. I would like to have that guy here for one more year with the promissory note of, hey, next year we're not going to go through this again with Vic. Is he staying or going? You're going to be the guy.
Yeah. There's a lot of R words thrown around down at the NovaCare complex over the last 9 or 12 months. I mean, we've had players retire who were actually contributing to the team. We've had players choose retirement after they were acquired in a trade and say, nah, not for me. I'm not even showing up. I'm going to retire. And now your vaunted defensive coordinator, your old salt on defense, is contemplating retired 2 years in a row. So, that just goes to show you the gravitational pull of good meatballs and golf, because he likes both. Okay, and he likes to watch the Phillies. I mean, this guy, I could hang out with this guy. We watch some Phillies. Yeah. We eat some meatballs. We have DiBiase and a Farzetta over for dinner, and and then we go play golf the next day. Yeah, what do you want from me? No, you got a hockey game to do. Probably you're not invited. But no, it is scary, because at some point you're going to lose him. It's probably his last year. He obviously is liking his next life, his next chapter. He's already seen it, and so you might as well, get a big bump in salary before I start experiencing. You guys are going to beg me back? All right, you going to give me some more money? Yeah, I'll do it. It's kind of one of those deals. But I totally agree with Louie. Like, when did they know this? And, it
happened last year. They knew it was coming this year, Harry.
Right. So
that's the bigger problem.
That's really the problem. Like, they allowed this guy, knowing that this was a big possibility again. He'd already considered it and had another great year. And now all of a sudden you're going to just let this guy just waltz out the building, and not only waltz out, but go to Dallas to be the defensive coordinator. I mean, that could be a major problem.
And I know that Dallas offered Parker the job this offseason, but I have a hard time believing if the Eagles went to him and said, even if you're not the guy this year, we're going to make you the DC in 2027 with a pay raise now, considering the talent they have on that defense and the success he's already had with that secondary. I have a hard time believing he would have turned that down for the Dallas job, where there's a lot of questions in that secondary. So maybe the Eagles don't view Christian Parker the way we do. Maybe they think we have all this personnel. Unlike the offensive coordinator job, this is going to be a very attractive one for outside coaches, because you're going to be the head coach of a star defense. So maybe they think they could do better. But I thought very highly of Parker. And again, I really like this Fangio scheme. And I think it would have been a seamless transition where you could keep that. If you bring back a Jim Schwartz, like the reports where they talked about considering doing, then your whole defense switches up again. And I don't want to go back to that point.
Or is
Yeah,
it
I do.
But I love the
coach next
Schwartz,
year
though. He
picking
was
a new
great.
DC.
I mean, it's
Jim
better than
Schwartz got
Jonathan
a really
Gannon. It sounds
bad
like they
rep.
considered both.
Yeah,
which is-
Gannon
Jim,
too, right?
Jim
yeah.
Schwartz got a really bad rap. I mean, he
Yeah.
got. Yeah, let's acknowledge. Yeah, he did get torched in the Super Bowl by only the greatest quarterback
Yeah,
ever.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like
but
Schwartz.
His
Yeah, I like him
infatuation with
too.
Ronald Darby always used to drive me nuts. But yeah.
very true. Very true. But here's what it is. So, yeah, you guys mentioned Jason Kelsey, would dangle this out there and then get like a keg of beer popping up on his driveway or something like that from Nick
Right.
Sirianni. Maybe Vic Fangio got the Carlo Rossi Chianti, the big old jug of Chianti in his drive. Hey, why don't you stick around a little bit?
Little
But-
bottle of Howie's tequila that he's a part of. Maybe.
There you go. The thing that made me think maybe the Eagles did kind of know how this was going to go. First off, I don't think they look at Christian Parker or didn't look at Christian Parker as some other people might have looked at him, like maybe the heir apparent, even though Cooper DeJean did like him. The Eagles, for the most part, other than Sean Desai and maybe other than Jonathan Gannon, they only really liked those guys because they were Fangio disciples in some way, shape, or form until they actually got, as I like to refer to them, not the cover band, the original act in Vic Fangio when they brought him in here. The other part is they like somebody that's going to come in and be in control of that defense while they figure it out, at least on the offensive side of the football. You can look at Jim Schwartz, who had the experience. You can certainly look at Jim Johnson, who had the experience. When the Eagles have a say over it, they like to have somebody in here who has that experience of actually running the defense, with few exceptions, in recent years. The other part of it is Christian Parker left Thursday, and supposedly Vic Fangio was talking about this a little bit earlier in the week. I think if the Eagles had the warning sign of last year, him contemplating retirement, I have to think that they at least knew how to approach it. Not in the idea that I don't think they really thought he was going to leave. They just knew they were going to have to come up with some kind of potential financial incentive, because I think Vic Fangio understands where he's at in his career and understands where he's at in his life, where he could go, yeah, maybe I could flirt with the Giants if they have a head coaching change and they want to bring in an experienced defensive coordinator. But really, I got a pretty sweet gig right here in Philadelphia. I'm not going to make more money by getting another offer. I can make more money by saying I'm going to retire. And that ultimately could just be it. And quite frankly, I hope that's what it is. I really hope it's not for at least a week or two he had his one foot out the door already. I hope it was more so a business move, gamesmanship, in order to get more out of the Eagles.
Well,
Yeah.
we're going to be looking at it in through a different prism now, maybe this next season, to see
Certainly.
how does this defense start out, because they have a pretty high bar to measure up to from this past season or the past two seasons under Fangio, and if they start out a little bit slow, it's like, yeah, well, they got a half retired defensive coordinator,
Yeah.
He's thinking about a beach house or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's thinking about sitting behind home plate at the
Yeah.
Phillies game.
Yeah.
Right.
He's thinking about making the meatballs, no doubt.
Yeah.
No, he's thinking about doing all that stuff, and he's got a girlfriend. You know what I mean? He wants to, travel the world or something. I don't know.
Getting
well,
Fangio
here-
back is huge, though, real quick, too, because when
Yeah,
you
sure.
think about the offense and all the changes that are coming with the coaching staff changing up the scheme, and who knows if all this personnel is going to be back, you kind of need that consistency, that continuity on defense, because I have no idea what this offense is going to look like this year.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a huge question there.
Yeah.
But the other part of it again is you look at the offense side of the football. I'm sorry, what does the head coach of this football team do exactly?
I know.
Sean Mannion has
Yeah.
coached 2 years, kind of. Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
What's happening here? And the people, 33 years old, he's a young man, innovative mind, and all that. Like Kevin Patullo wasn't 110. You know what I
Right.
mean? So there's a lot of unknown going on. I want to be able to look and see the wise old gentleman there on the sideline running up in the box watching the team break it all down. I want to have confidence in somebody that's making decisions for that football team. And there's nobody really in the NFL that you're going to look at as more of an authoritative figure than what Vic Fangio brings here. Plus, I mean, we'll talk about this a couple times throughout the show, but it's worth the first mention here. Nicobe Dean, in this interview that he did with Teron Armstead, former New Orleans Saint, longtime New Orleans Saint, 5-time Pro Bowler, I believe it was with the Dolphins. He played under Vic Fangio. He had Nicobe Dean on his podcast, and Nicobe Dean basically just said, "Hey, we heard a lot of horror stories from you guys in Miami about what Vic Fangio was and how he can't identify with the players and blah blah blah." And he's like, "The man's almost 70 years old. I'm not looking for him to identify with me. He's 40 years my elder." And I love that he was that honest with it. But he said, if you really want to be the best that you can possibly be, Vic Fangio is the guy to get that best out of you. And look, you're looking at Jordan Davis, being Mr. Peloton. Jalen Carter, unfortunately, there's some things that happened this year that were a little disappointing to say the least, but when he's on top of his game, he's one of the best in the NFL. And then you look at the secondary just continue to grow with these two young corners, and who knows what Drew Makuba could turn into. But, man, you're talking about getting the best out of players here, Harry, and you're looking at a guy in Vic Fangio that knows how to tap into that talent pool.
Yeah, he definitely does. I mean, and that's kind of in this day and age, especially with this sort of this turn towards younger minds on both, really on both sides of the ball. It's like you're trying to find that young guy, that next guy that's going to be the next, genius, boy genius kind of stuff. And now you look at this old salty, crusty guy, who has found a way, to his credit, to tap into younger players, which is not always that easy. Like that's kind of when I think you kind of know you're done, when you can no longer reach the player. You're a generation or two older than them, and I can't reach these guys anymore. He can. And so, the Eagles are at least going to get one more season, you would think, out of that. But he's kind of rare. When you start looking at what they did with the offensive side, they got a couple of young guys in here that don't have a whole lot of experience.
And look, Fangio's old, but his defense isn't old. His scheme isn't old. Everything about him is pretty modern. When you look at the scheme, disguise coverages, he's very willing to blitz if need be, like very open-minded to what a player does best and molding the scheme to those strengths. A lot of coaches in their 70s probably aren't having that kind of style
have their system,
at this
and that's
time in
it.
their career. It's you fit, it's my way or the highway, and that's it, right? I think that's been a lot of Eagles coaches in the past. So, yeah, Fangio's an older coach, but when you think about the way modern defenses are advancing right now, a lot of that is because of Fangio's scheme. So it's not a coincidence that he shuts down Sean McVay kind of offenses, these West Coast systems that are taking over the NFL. So every year you can get him to come back. You milk that for as long as possible while this defense is still maturing into their prime. And then hopefully by the time he's done, those guys are in that second contract anyway, and it almost doesn't matter at that point who your DC is.
So keep our fingers crossed that this becomes officially official, that he does come back for another season with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's for sure. When we come back, we're going to talk about some offensive coordinator panic. I know some panic had set in. I know Jason had been talking about it as well before the Eagles made the decision on Sean Mannion. Is it possible, gentlemen, some people in Philadelphia may have overreacted? No way. Yeah, that's right. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. We'll be back right after this. Hey, let me tell you about the incredible people at Gusto. If you guys aren't taking advantage of this, you're missing out. Gusto comes in when you talk about business communications, and you talk about calculating tax withholdings, you talk about payroll, you talk about making sure that everybody's on the same page. Gusto is an all-in-one remote-friendly payroll for HR platforms that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it right from one place without the hassle or the hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for 1 month price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits have you saving hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. Now that right there is communication. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. That's gusto.com/lockedonnfl for 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right. 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnfl. One more time. Gusto, gusto.com/lockedonnfl. And how about FanDuel? Oh boy. Final football Sunday. Final football Sunday for Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, one final chance to be in on the action before the NFL season is officially closed. Whether you're backing the favorite, whether you're riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everybody's been waiting for. There is predictions to turn into results, into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger and bigger. That's a perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting for kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Bringing it all down further. First off, Jason, I know this is something you want to get into, and that's panic. We knew that Kevin Patullo would likely be done by the time the season was over, and that happened rather quickly. Now, a few days before the Eagles actually made the announcement of Kellen Moore getting the gig 2 years ago, they make the announcement that Sean Mannion has been hired as the offensive coordinator. Just recently, before we went on and did the show live today, we saw Matt Nagy get the job with John Harbaugh, in New York with the Giants to be their offensive coordinator. He interviewed here in Philadelphia. So in the limited weeks after the season, Jason, did you get a sense that there was panic in the streets of Philadelphia regarding who the new offensive coordinator was going to be?
Oh, we do panic. If this city was named after a band, it'd be Widespread Panic.
Good jam band.
Yeah, very good pull. Yeah, absolutely. There was panic, and rightfully so, because it's a pretty consequential coaching position for obvious reasons, which we saw this year with a big piece of that culpability pie for Kevin Patullo and the lack of ability of Nick Sirianni to kind of have the wherewithal to pull out of it by taking it over. That tells me he doesn't have confidence in himself, that he's much better at it, which is why I kind of opened with what I did. I'm glad it's not Sirianni, because if Sirianni felt extreme confidence that he could do this in the NFL again, he would have done it this past year, right? And pulled them out of it. He didn't. So that's pretty telling to me. And then you see, like you said, the Matt Nagy thing, he ends up in New York with the Giants and John Harbaugh. I think he was probably the safe pick, but the Eagles didn't go with the safe pick. And it looks to me like the Giants wanted Mannion too. He ended up with the Eagles, and they ended up with the consolation prize. Is he the right guy? No idea. Never called plays before. No clue. But every guy that has called plays had never called plays before. So I'm not going to sit here and doom scroll and stress over it all summer. I'm glad they settled on a guy, and I like new blood in the NFL. We'll see if he's innovative. We'll see if he's creative. We'll see if he can handle the best league in the world as a play caller. If he can, and the Eagles are more creative and get more out of this offense, then maybe this time next year, we're talking about preview shows of the Eagles returning to a Super Bowl. But he's going to have to be considerably better than Kevin Patullo, which I don't think is tough, but he's going to have to be good by NFL standards, which may be tough.
Yeah.
Louie, was there panic in the streets?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like Sean Mannion was a top 5 guy. I didn't say his name one time on this podcast, on the Squad Show, on my daily podcast. Like, he was not on my radar. I wanted an experienced play caller. So from that standpoint, I definitely think there was some panic, and people were wondering if this job is just something nobody wants. Does that tell us something about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's future long-term in Philadelphia? But when you look at Mannion's background, I do like that. Okay, even if you can't get one of the experienced guys like a Mike McDaniel or a Brian Dable, the guys we kept mentioning on this show, at least Mannion comes from that McVay, Shanahan, LaFleur, West Coast style that we were hoping was implemented in this offense. He is a former quarterback, so although he didn't call plays as a coach, he did call plays as a quarterback. I think that's big for Jalen Hurts too. And when you combine that with the hire of Josh Grizzard from Tampa Bay, I think the two of them together could really modernize this passing game. Again, it's all up in the air. Mannion is very unproven, and that's definitely a gamble considering the stakes at hand in 2026. But I think you could have done a lot worse. Like, if it was Matt Nagy to the Eagles and Mannion to the Giants, I think we'd all be feeling a little worse right now. Well, maybe at least I would. I don't know, but I don't want to speak for you guys. I was not a Nagy guy.
Yeah, I mean, this screams Jeffrey Lurie to me because this is like the next guy. He's trying to get ahead of the game, which is what he typically likes to do, and hire this guy where you're like, boy, look at what the Eagles did. Boy, they got a guy who's never called plays to take the job of a guy who never called plays and sucked. So now they got this guy. They obviously are not going to screw this up twice in a row. So this guy he's got to be gold. Other teams were clamoring for him, like the Giants. They wanted him as their OC, and they ended up with the booby prize of Andy Reid's old guy, Nagy, who's just filtering around the lobby of a hotel trying to get a job at this point in his career. So, with the LaFleur, connection, I like the idea of what Green Bay does, and I like the idea of what San Francisco does because you're going to see, you're going to still see them stick with the running game. You're going to see motions. You're going to see boot action. You're going to see play action. I can guarantee you're going to see that. I haven't seen him call one frickin' play because, I guess maybe he was in the Shrine Bowl. I don't know. Who cares about that? But I guarantee you're going to see a lot of that, and I like that. So
the numbers back that up, Harry. The Packers last year threw from under center the third most in football.
Yeah,
and their
I like
motion
that.
percentage was also 11th. Then when you add Grizzard to the fold, Tampa Bay was 8th in motion, and they used the screen game, the middle of the field. The numbers do back that up.
And I think you got to look at Grizzard, who did not have a good year, but Baker Mayfield was on his way to being an MVP candidate back when I finally jumped on board about a third of the way through the season, which is when they started to get decimated by injuries and that whole team fell apart. So I'm not going to put that on him. I liked what I saw out of Baker Mayfield and Tampa's offense in those first couple of weeks of the season.
Yeah. And far be it for me to just push skeptics aside for a second, but let's just mention this. Obviously, Sean Mannion wasn't calling plays in Green Bay, but that is literally 100% of his coaching experience when you talk about what he was involved with behind the scenes. So when you talk about creativity, or at least things that would be creative to us here in Philadelphia after watching grass grow offensively,
like a crossing
speaking,
route, like over the middle of the field.
How about that?
God. A shovel pass? What kind of sorcery?
Wait, we're going to layer receivers 3 on one side of the ball?
Out route that wasn't a hitch. The Packers were number 1 last year in out route percentage. I mean, the Eagles were 30th.
Yeah, right. That's one of the stats. The hitch routes also talking about first being in the 31st. That's absolutely insane when you talk about those numbers.
You'll be pleased to know the Packers were 27th in hitch route percentage.
Oh, they were 27th. I thought they were 31st, but okay.
Looks like 27.
Yeah. All right, there you go. But here's where I'll talk about the panic. On the positive side of things, I think panic over Jalen Hurts and any conversation about, is he the guy or not? Or he's going to be on a short leash this year. No, he's not. No, he's not. He had a bad year. The offense had a bad year. If you're telling me, like, I ranked the problems of the offense last year on the offensive line not playing well, the play caller being horrifically inexperienced and not having any feel for it whatsoever. And then I look at Jalen Hurts. And if those first two things aren't great, then that's going to affect what the quarterback is doing. So that, for me, is a big part of it. But when you talk about Sean Mannion coming in, evolving, Jalen Hurts is 1,000% a part of that. He needs to evolve with the offense as well. He needs to let it grow, and he needs to let himself grow. I got confidence that Jalen Hurts will, put his, best foot forward and work his ass off and all that stuff. But what I have zero confidence in, and this is where the panic really comes in, the negative side of this, really, in all seriousness, what does Nick Sirianni do?
I was
other
waiting
than
to get to that.
if you're telling me, Harry, if you're telling me that you're having another offensive play caller come in here and he's got 2 years of coaching experience and he's supposed to be some wizard, and you need someone to handle the defense of the experience of Vic Fangio, what the hell does Nick Sirianni do other than be the buffer between coordinators and the front office? Like, what is
CEO?
I think that's it.
But the CEO
And set
is
the
even
culture. And set the culture.
Look, I understand all the success. The 2 Super Bowls is incredible. The winning, it really is. It's hard to crack the code of this because you look at Nick Sirianni and you're like, really, this guy? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And the thing that really sticks out to me is I'll go back to it. 43 seconds left in the season. Mom is the word from him on the sideline with that timeout. And this is a guy that already acknowledged the problems behind the scenes. Supposedly he was getting more involved. He had no answer for this, Jason. Right. No answer for this. So I got confidence that Jalen Hurts will be better. Nick Sirianni, I mean, you're going to clap louder. You're going to have
yell at
greater,
the fans.
You're going to have yell at the fans. You're going to have a greater passage from the Art of War to read to the team. What do you do other than be that buffer?
Yeah,
what do you?
How does he grade out at the end of it? You know, you grade guys out at the end of a season. Everybody, you go and right when the season's over because you don't want any time between the end of something to soften a stance or a remembrance or anything. You know, when he grades out at the end of the season, first of all, what are the subjects he's graded on? You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're going to grade Nick out. He did this, this, and this well in these areas. These areas need to be like, I don't know what those subjects are. Yeah. I don't know what his major is, let alone all that stuff. So he grades out well for two reasons, though. Number one, he probably didn't have the decision to hire Sean Mannion. And that's not his decision. And number two, he stays out of the GM and the owner's way. You grade out in those two areas, you can fail out in every other area. You're graduating.
Yeah.
Magna cum laude.
Well, to that point, if you're Jeffrey Lurie or you're Howie Roseman, other than what might be going on right now with Fangio about maybe trying to negotiate for more money, or if that's even part of it, that we're speculating there. But if that's part of it, which is an easy thing to speculate, you're never going to get in a power struggle with a coordinator. Kellen Moore was never going to go to the Eagles management and be like, you better draft this guy or else, but that could happen with a head coach. But if the head coach is firm in the spot that he's in, like Nick Sirianni is now and has been, similar to Doug Peterson trying to dig his heels in and saying, oh, no, this is going to be my coaching staff. And the Eagles say, not so fast, you're gone. That's never going to happen with a coordinator.
I would think
that only can happen with a head coach. And if they have a head coach that that they know is going to play ball, go ahead. You would think Vic Fangio would be that power struggle?
that Vic Fangio would be a guy that could go directly to Howie Roseman and the owner and just bypass old Nick.
Yeah, well, I like I said, with the exception of Vic Fangio right now, like somebody that established, somebody that they've pined over and literally got two, I'll say it again, cover bands for what he does. I think he's got some sway. Jim Schwartz was a guy they drafted talent for, obviously. Like same type of thing. And it was like, does Doug Peterson even meet the talent that they draft? Like what's going on? But people looked at Jim Schwartz and said, oh no, they're going to get him the weapons that he needs, so to speak, to run this defense.
I don't know. I mean, I always go back and forth with this with the head coach because I think we know that play calling isn't the only thing that a head coach does. Because if that's the case, Mike Vrabel should get no credit. I mean, he doesn't call either side of the ball, but I think we all know Vrabel was instrumental in the Patriots' turnaround this year. So there's things that I can't quantify about Sirianni because we don't know behind closed doors like what is going on. But you're also right at the same time. I do feel like you could plug and play a lot of head coaches in this setup with the GM, with the roster, with the great assistant coaches they've had, and they'll probably be just as good. So I think the Eagles, Marc mentioned it last week, and I think it really stuck with me. Like, I think they really prioritize that Sirianni does stay out of the way, that he doesn't look for power like Chip Kelly did, and at the end, Doug Peterson did. Even after new clout, you could say, after a Super Bowl win, Sirianni was totally okay this year again with, I think, the owner and GM having more sway than maybe he'd prefer and Doug preferred at the time. So I think that's the biggest part is the Eagles want that kind of unique power structure. And Sirianni's one of the few coaches with this kind of resume that would still be okay with that kind of dynamic.
He seems like the perfect guy.
He's just a delegator, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of bosses, though, that don't do a whole lot, right? I think you can make that argument a lot in a lot of businesses.
You want my list? Anyway, so when it comes to here's what I'll say about Sirianni and Vrabel, and people have talked about John Harbaugh in this regard as well. When you talk about guys that don't call plays, and you talk about CEO head coaches, maybe it's just because I'm too close to the situation with Sirianni where I really look, I'm like, well, what is he doing exactly?
Yeah.
I remember doing an interview in Kansas City before the first time the Eagles played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and unfortunately lost. We all know that. It was like, why do people not like Sirianni? He's in the Super Bowl, that kind of thing. I'm like, well, he doesn't call plays, blah, blah, blah. They go, well, a lot of people don't call plays. I'm like, yeah, well, how many people on your list there that don't call plays offensively or defensively fired themselves from calling plays?
Yeah.
Not many.
Yeah.
I don't think any,
true.
as a matter of fact.
Fair point.
I mean,
so that's what I go to.
The first real CEO, I think, where I'm going to say where the term came from was Jimmy Johnson, when he was with the Cowboys.
Okay.
He had two distinct coordinators in Wannstedt and Norv Turner. Okay, they handled their respective sides of the ball, but Jimmy Johnson had an unbelievable skill set, not only with the owner and his relationship with the owner. Jimmy Johnson could scout talent better than anybody else at the time. He knew college talent. He knew the college game. He was successful there, and he came up here and loaded that roster. That was his golden ticket. Sirianni, does he have that?
Well, no, because he doesn't have personnel say,
Right.
So you can't give him credit for that. He doesn't pick his own assistants half the time, so you can't give him credit for that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to give him credit for.
Right. So is
Jimmy
he
Johnson
really even a
maximized the Herschel Walker trade?
I think even as a
right.
CEO coach, he has way less power. Like Nick Saban was
Right.
a CEO head coach at Alabama, but
Yes.
you know he was running the program. With Sirianni, I think the difference of why I guess you can criticize, I'm changing my own opinion as we talk here, but you know that he doesn't have the power and the control outside of play calling that a lot of other I mean, John Harbaugh walked into the Giants facility day one and instantly got power over the GM. Like Sirianni doesn't have that even after 2 Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah. Saban also coached the defensive backs. That was his specialty as far as
What's
coaching.
Sirianni's? Does he have a specialty? I mean, he was a former receiver, but
All right. I'll say something nice. And I
that should be the
truly
segment. Say something nice about Sirianni. Once a week, we'll do this.
we have a theme song. Whole thing. Yeah. Something nice about Sirianni.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
Here you go. And I've heard this from multiple people. The guy, and it's going to sound like I'm joking. It's going to sound tongue in cheek. I mean this. The guy runs a hell of a meeting. And that ain't nothing. You think about through the course of a season, the amount of times a player can either lose focus or be distracted in any way, shape, or form, not do their job, whatever. Nick Sirianni, for the vast majority, look, they make the playoffs every year. We talked about a down year as 11 wins, but they still make the playoffs. 2 Super Bowl appearances, a Super Bowl victory, okay? There is something about this guy that he just knows how to get that team to pull focus. He knows how to push the buttons. Hearing a flower power speech from an NFL head coach makes me go, of all the things to illustrate the point of planting a seed and having it grow, we're talking about petunias, okay?
Yeah.
An oak tree, you can say about an oak tree, something that you would think identifies a little bit more with an NFL locker room.
A redwood.
Just a nice myrrh, something like that. But somehow it identified with the locker room, and then bang, they make the playoffs. They go on a run. It's first year. The following season, they go to the Super Bowl. It makes zero sense to me. But even hearing, again, most recently, N'Kobe Dean talking about this yesterday, Nick's my guy. Nick will be fired up in one moment, yelling at you for not doing something you were supposed to do, and then he's yelling at the ref on that very same play for not calling something that would have helped you do your job. Players just really feel like Nick Sirianni has their back. I'm not a player, obviously. I don't play for the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't speak to that. That is something that people tell me, and I go, all right, well, if it works for you, it still looks weird to me, but there you go. It's a superpower. What does he do great?
Yeah.
That's what he does great.
I don't think he's a pushover, but you're right. Like he is, I think he is a nice middle ground of like a Doug Peterson, but then a Bill Belichick disciplinarian where I think he can do both. And that is an elite strength. So yeah, that's why I don't want to even say Sirianni has no pluses. Like Urban Meyer couldn't just come in here and go to 2 Super Bowls, and you can't just plug and play any head coach. But I will say at the same time, I think there's a lot of coaches out there though that can do that and also scheme up a really nice offense and have enough say in personnel where he has that resume, deserves that kind of opinion.
But to do that, do the coaches have the bandwidth?
Yeah.
To give the offense the proper thing and to kind of oversee everything like that. He is rare in that sense. Like I agree with you, Mark, that he's not a guy that you look at and go, well, he's a hard ass and he challenges players to break down walls, and get to places and get to performance levels that they thought unfathomable by driving them hard. He manages to preach accountability and hold accountability while also kind of being their friend, which is hard to do. I think it's maybe the hardest thing to do in sports. You got to be the coach. You got to be no discernment in how we deal with each other. In college, it's different. Like Nick Saban was a brand, and you're recruiting. That's a brand. Urban Meyer was a brand. But at the NFL level, he does know how to communicate with players and get the most out of them without riding them with a whip nonstop. At least that's our perception. I don't think that's behind the scenes that he's doing that.
Yeah.
And the fact that he maybe stays out of things, you got to look at the collective staff too. You don't want to have a staff of redundant personalities as coaches. You want different guys serving different masters, if you will. You got to have, like, a lot of times an assistant coach is the one that the players go to and vent to and stuff like that. They're more the friend, and how the staff is all together maybe is determining of that as well. Like Vic is Vic Fangio's the really surly old guy. Like, what I expect of you. Don't disappoint me. So you have those different.
What you're talking about is coaching the coaches, which is a big value aspect of any head coach, and it's stuff that we generally do not see.
That's
or
the
know
problem.
a whole
we don't
hell
see
of
that
a lot
stuff,
of it about.
and there's no stat to pull that up.
There's no measurable.
Right.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing quantifiable.
But it's big. It's really big.
Is.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni's open-mindedness and just like acceptance almost of things. Like, how many coaches would allow last year what happened at 2-2 players walk into his office and say, like, we need to completely change this offense completely. And he was willing to do it, and it won them a Super Bowl. Like, a lot of coaches would have been
at the table.
A lot of coaches, like Chip Kelly, would have never did that. Can you imagine if Nick Foles said, we need to go from like the 30th rushing team in the league to number 1? And I think that's part of it too. But again, like, the big issue with Sirianni type of coaches is there isn't a stat to pull up. There isn't a film breakdown you can do of that. And
with today's athlete too, Louie,
yeah,
like I remember growing up playing sports, people my age and Harry's age, I had coaches tell me, I'll let you know when it's a democracy, but don't hold your breath.
Right. That doesn't work with modern day athletes at all.
It's like it was at home too when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember my dad saying that. I'll let you know when you get a vote.
Right.
Until then, clean your room and clean up the dishes or whatever it is, right? You didn't have a choice.
Right.
But now athletes, you can't just tell them, you got to show them. That's the big thing that we hear too. You can't just say, hey, I need you to do this. You need to show them why they need to do it. So you need to accompany film to it or whatever. He just has a good way of communicating with the modern athlete. And he's put together a staff coaching the coaches, like Harry said, of getting them all on the same page to deliver a similar message in their own unique way that feels authentic to the players. And that is the skill, but there's no measurable for it. And it's hard for us because we don't see it. We don't feel it.
Yep.
No, I think that's a great point to make. When we come back, I do want to get into Sean Mannion. What are our requests? What do we need to see? What does he need to do to help get this Eagles offense back on track? I think we pretty much nailed it in this Say Something Nice About Sirianni segment about what Sirianni needs to do. Now we need to hear about, and a lot of that is stay out of the way, maybe. We'll talk about what Sean Mannion needs to do with this Eagles offense and what we can expect when we return. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Back after this.
All righty. Let me tell you about TurboTax. Yeah, it's that time of year. I've been getting the letters in the mail or the emails with your end-of-year earnings. It is that time of year, everybody's favorite time of year, tax season. It doesn't have to take over your life, though. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day, not stress about it. TurboTax full service. You can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. And they'll handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms, 1099, and work to get you every deduction you're entitled to. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right on the TurboTax app. So simple. It's a huge time saver and gives you real peace of mind knowing that an expert is handling it. A lot of us, like me, I am not a tax expert, and I want the expertise of the expert. Now, for a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Don't stress about it. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Locked On Eagles Squad Show. Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, Louie DiBiase, Marc Farzetta. All right, let's get into Sean Mannion here, where we look at this Eagles offense. We can talk all day about go routes. We can talk about hitch routes. We can talk about the layered routes, Harry, that you mentioned earlier. We can talk about Jalen needing to perform better, this offensive line stepping up. what do you need to see from Sean Mannion? Louie, I'll ask you first. What do you need to see from Sean Mannion in this Eagles offense? It's going to be 7 months before we can talk about anything tangible here. What do you want to hear about over the coming weeks that he's doing differently with this Eagles offense, or plans to do differently with this Eagles offense?
I just want to hear that the passing game is going to be different. I just want to hear that he is implementing things that we haven't had in this offense since 2021, right? Even in 2024 with Kellen Moore, when he was the play caller, outside of the first few weeks of the season, did we really notice a difference in anything schematically? Like, what won them a championship was something they've always done well since 2021 in the Hurt Sirianni era. It was shotgun zone running. It was RPO passing. So I just want to hear that they're fully committed to finally changing the scheme on offense. And yes, Mannion is only a year 2 coach. Maybe he hasn't deserved that, where you throw everything out the window that Sirianni and Hurts have done. But I just think this is the time, the point of Hurts' career, Sirianni's career, where you really do need to implement change so you don't have the same stale offense as last year. So, yeah.
Saquon's career, too.
Right, Saquon's, too. I mean, Saquon's going to be 29 years old, and he's not going to be able to carry you anymore the way – I still think he's going to be a really good running back this year, but he can't be 2024 Saquon for you at 30 years old eventually. So I just want to hear that they're fully committed to changing this thing up. And until training camp and preseason, we won't know that on the field. But I think Mannion and Grizzard, they really need to let them go to work, even with their inexperience. Let them bring in the concepts that they're used to, because that's what this offense has been desperately needing for years in the passing game.
I'm hoping that Mannion and Grizzard are doing little road trips right now. And one of them is to where A.J. Brown is. And they do, like, let's go out and have a meal, and let's talk about what we're going to do with you.
It's like a timeshare meeting, yeah.
Yeah, like, what are we going to – this is our plan for you, A.J. And get him so freaking lathered up and bought in, couple of bowls of loudmouth soup, some confidence in him, right? And make that guy go, I can't friggin' wait for training camp.
Throw him some dinner rolls, see if you can catch him. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, do the whole thing with him. Like, really make him feel like, okay, this is not going to be the same old, where I'm going to have to chirp and the greasy wheel's going to get the grease, or the squeaky wheel's going to get the grease. These guys have a plan for me that the NFL's never seen before. I'm going to be used in ways. I'm going to get put in space. I'm going to be battling for balls. They're going to be playing to my strengths, Devontae's strengths, and my quarterback strengths. By bootlegging the quarterback out like that, that would get me excited. You got to find a way to get him bought in too. I don't think you need to do that with Devontae Smith, but you meet with him anyway, because you meet with everybody as the new guys in town, and you get everybody ready to go, thinking this summer, when you're at that gym and you want to pack up early to stay a little longer, because we're going to deploy you guys in ways that you've never seen before and the NFL's never seen before, and get them pumped up for it. Because I don't want to be sitting here next year at this time with the Eagles not playing. I don't. I think their window is still wide open. But it really, and maybe probably the last year of Vic Fangio without the heir apparent, like next year to me is an all-in year. It is an all-in for one more with this core, with this. I don't know if it's going to be for the core, but right now, I mean, this is an all-in year if Vic Fangio is leaving. So I'm pushing every button I have to push. And Sirianni, if he's that communicator and motivator and everything, he's got to be part of this too. But I'm getting those guys out on the road to meet with these guys and get them pumped up and excited about what's to come OTAs, training camp, and the season.
That's what Sirianni can do. He can drive the motorhome and drive the two passing game offensive minds around to go visit AJ, Devontae, Saquon, and all. And Sirianni just drives the motorhome.
Yeah, but he'll be in the background. Like, can I interject, actually? Can I introduce to you the hitch route?
No, you can't. You pull the curtain.
One game of rock, paper, scissors. One game of rock, paper, scissors. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. I just want to see an offense that looks like more of these other great offenses around the league. I watch all these stinking games. The games I hate watching the most a lot of times are the Eagles games this past year because they were ugly to watch.
It's angering to watch other offenses.
It's awful.
The Rams-Seahawks NFC title was making me literally lose my mind.
Yeah, I want to see like formations of wide receivers, guys in motion, scheming to get guys open. How about that? I want to see a quarterback under center half the time or at least half the time. I want to see play action. I mean, is this too much to ask? I'm not breaking new ground here.
now.
It's a low bar.
Yeah, do these guys bring in a screen game for Saquon? You know what I mean? Like I think he could be like, is the screen game almost treated like a run like in the Andy Reid days with Brian Westbrook?
Yeah.
You know, when you would get Westbrook in space, like you got to get Saquon in space.
And utilize the quarterback's legs to his advantage because it was an advantage.
Yeah. Two things. Well, first, we've mentioned Saquon a couple of times. I just want to point out Saquon, I know he's going to be another year older, but coming off a year where he has 140 less touches than the previous, I think is only a better. Like, I don't think it was everything, but I also don't think it was nothing. I think it was definitely a factor. 482 touches in the Super Bowl historic run. Exactly. 140 less this year.
Yeah.
You know, coming
shorter
off
of season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. You have another month, of off season. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but maybe it is. Looking for some kind of silver lining here with Saquon. But as far as what I need from Sean Mannion, I all the things you guys mentioned are great. I'm on board with everything. The road trip sounds fantastic. Love road trips. But the exotic look, the motion, anything, motion just for the sake of, oh, they're in zone. Like, no, where's the creativity that's going to make a defense guess a little bit? That's certainly something. The other thing is, Jalen, you're actually great at throwing over the middle. Like, I don't know if you've seen your own numbers, man, but holy pots and pans. You got like a 74 completion percentage over the middle of the field. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's not be one of the fewest. Yeah. Just, God, look, you're good at doing this. You're good under center. You can do this.
Yeah, you've got to coach the mind.
Your athleticism is amazing. Like, you want to talk about not being predictable, not knowing if a quarterback is going to, run with this, whether or not they're going to scramble for this, whether or not they're going to run the quarterback draw, whether or not they're going to throw over the middle of the field and not eliminate, essentially a third of the field. That makes things a lot harder to predict as a defense. People get caught up in the predictability when it comes to Kevin Patullo and that offense. And it's not wrong by any means, but it's not everything. Jalen Hurts was predictable last year too. Jalen Hurts, you could dictate what he was going to do. How many times did we see defensive tackles drop back in coverage after Jalen looked at his first read? Pre-snap, by the way. That would fool the hell. That's predictable. That's on the quarterback. That's not on Kevin Patullo. I still believe Patullo was the bigger problem, but not all of that was coaching. Not all of it was the offensive line. Some of it was the quarterback as well. Tap into the things that made Jalen Hurts great. And while you're doing that, that'll expand the comfort zone, maybe to the middle of the field, maybe to getting back to running the ball a little bit more, because I also want to caution this with people. 2 years ago, we were talking about, well, how do you limit Jalen Hurts running? He can't run that much. You're going to get him hurt. And now all of a sudden he's not running as much. Why isn't he running? There's a middle ground there that you can tap into. Maybe some of those are on those long rollouts with Jalen where he rolled out to escape pressure and he kept his eyes downfield. Maybe instead of that, just take it off and run. If you don't want to air it out, get down the field and slide. Get out of bounds. Maybe a throwaway isn't always the best option there. So those are things that I'd like to see from Sean Mannion, somehow tap into the mind of Jalen Hurts and say, all right, man, look, you're good at throwing over the middle. Guess what? We're going to do that. You're good under center. We're going to do that. You're good when you're running the quarterback draw. We're going to do that. If we're going empty backfield, guess what? Every once in a while, we're going to go with a quarterback draw. Tap into that. Like, for me, it's not a question at all about whether or not Jalen Hurts is the guy. It's a question of whether or not you can continue to grow his game and bringing in I know a young, inexperienced coach might not be the easiest thing for him to tap into a guy as established as Jalen Hurts, but you got to find a way to make it appealing to him and the rest of this offense.
And everything you just laid out with his running style, with throwing over the middle of the field, is all about being aggressive. I think that's what these coaches need to do too, is instill that aggressive play to win, play to score points mentality, not play not to lose and play to limit turnovers. I think that's everything we're laying out there is all about that kind of mindset. And they just went way too far the opposite way in 2025. So I think the coaches just need to say, like, we're going for it this year. They can't play scared. Jalen can't play scared. Nick can't coach scared. That's the biggest thing.
All right. One more break we have here. I want to get into what Milton Williams had to say. And the always party Always a party. Super Bowl opening night. Since they shift to this some time ago, it is awesome. And Milton Williams, former Eagle, back in another Super Bowl, addressed the media last night. He did say something that made me curious. We'll talk about that, and we'll get a stay or go for you as well. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Back after this.
Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles Squad podcast is brought to you by Betterhelp. February can be a lot. Flowers, candy, stuffed animals, and so much talk about relationships. And it can honestly feel like everyone else has it all together in their love life. But here's the truth. Whether you're married, dating, single, or just focusing on you, most people are still figuring it out. No matter where you are in your romantic journey, therapy can help you find your way. It can help you get clear on what you want, what feels heavy, and how to take some pressure off yourself. It's easy to assume everybody else has it perfect in their relationship, but most people are working through something. Therapy can help you recognize patterns that might be weighing your relationship down. BetterHelp is licensed therapists in the U.S., and they do the initial matching work for you, so you can focus on your goals this year. And if you want to switch therapists, you can do that at any time. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/LockedOn for 10.
Welcome back, Locked On Eagles Squad Show. So last night, Super Bowl opening. Have you guys ever done a Super Bowl opening night?
Last year, yep, I was in New Orleans for it.
Yeah, good.
Nice.
First time. What an experience.
It's like just everybody celebrating football. I mean, you got crazy people walking around, but it's everybody just celebrating football. I
couldn't shake the Nickelodeon crew for some reason. Every podium I went to, it felt like they were just throwing slime hats on the players. It's ridiculous.
It is pretty wild. But last night, Milton Williams was there, obviously, with the Patriots, and he compared Eagles fans, Patriots fans, fine, whatever. But the thing that really jumped out to me is that the Eagles never made him an offer at the end of last year. According to Milton Williams, he said last night, the Eagles never extended an offer, an actual offer, no sit down, no nothing. At first, my thought is, what the hell? Like, you don't even have a conversation with the guy?
No.
And then you think about,
I'm not surprised at it.
But but he played so well. Like, he played so well.
But that's why they never made him an offer. They knew they weren't going to come close to the ballpark he was looking for.
$63 million guaranteed.
Yeah, that was never happening with Jalen Carter.
It was never I know. I agree. They look, Howie Roseman, if he knows what he's doing with anything, it's what he's doing with the dollars and the cents, obviously. But my first thought was, you don't even have a conversation. You don't even test the water. You don't even, maybe there's a small shot. I don't believe in a hometown discount, but I do believe a guy being in a vicinity of some kind of comfort that he likes and winning and no unknowns out there. But then you think about the Panthers are the ones that really got him paid. Because if you remember, the Panthers made him a sizable offer. And then the Patriots went, we'll go whatever it was, 20 million above that, 30 million above that. And they did. They blew the Panthers out of the water. And now he's back in the Super Bowl. So I know a lot of people see that, and they see that headline, and they might not even read the quote, but it wasn't happening.
Were there any real journalists there that asked him, "Hey, did you at least buy Jalen Carter an ATV because he got you paid?"
Well,
see, that's the kind of stuff that I would.
Milton
ask
did
him.
prove this year, though, that he wasn't. I mean, he dominated this year, not with Jalen Carter. So
without Jalen Carter, there's no way he
Carter
gets
earned
that
him
deal.
a lot of money. No, absolutely, I agree.
I agree, but he did. I said the same thing. I was like, he's not going to be worth that money. Come on now. And I know in the sports world who is worth that money, but nowhere near the vicinity of what he got with the Patriots. And he balled out.
He was.
He played for a third-round pick, right?
And
Louisiana
not
Tech.
bad at all.
Yeah.
I think Moro Ijoma should be like licking his chops right now, seeing Milton Williams' success this year. If Ijoma dominates again in 2026, like he was so good in one-on-one pass rushing last year, he's going to get that kind of contract after the season too. And it probably again won't be in Philly because they're going to pay Carter and Davis. Those are the two they're going to prioritize. So a big winner of Milton's year too is Ijoma.
Absolutely. And pretty consistently throughout the year, he was one of the top-ranked defensive tackles.
His
in the
numbers
NFL.
were better than Milton Williams in 2024 last year, consistently. So, big year for Ijoma.
Want to get one name out there when it comes to stay or go for you fine gentlemen. Read Blankenship.
Ooh, this is a good. This is maybe the most interesting one.
Isn't this a wild one? Like
It's
my
tough.
knee-jerk reaction is like, nope, see ya. And then you listen to guys in the locker room that talk about how much they love him, and how much of a leader he is, and it's like, damn, Reed Blankenship, stay or go.
Oh, man, I think they have to have a hard line. I would say stay because I do think he is a big time leader in that locker room, very close with Cooper DeJean and his teammates, a clutch ball hawk in the fourth quarter. But I think what Reed Blankenship does on the field is pretty replaceable by 70, 80% with like another second, third round pick or a lower free agent signing. So if I'm the Eagles, I want him back, but I have a hard line of like, I'm going at, you can have $6.5 million a year and that's it. You're on the open market if you get more, like, so long.
Right.
So I would say stay with an asterisk on it, though. I think I'd be very disciplined in how much I'm willing to offer. Because, again, he has benefits, but I don't think he's the star safety on the field.
No, but I would say stay as well because he's only going to be 27. I think, for one more, 2 or 3 year contract with all that he does bring. But if he does get blown away by some other team, I agree with Louie. Like there's a point where we're not going above this.
Right.
And if he can go get it, God bless you. It's been nice knowing you. Have a blast in Arizona or wherever it is.
Yeah.
You can put me in with the stay, but can be swayed. And one of the biggest reason is, look, the Sydney Brown experiment. See you, man. Yeah. We're done. But Drew Makuba being, I thought, a promising young safety, a rookie, obviously, having a veteran next to him makes me feel warm and fuzzy. So that's one of the reasons I'd like him to stay there in that spot. And yeah, there is a line of demarcation of a number that the Eagles won't go over, and they're wise not to do that. But I would be happy if you're telling me that Reed Blankenship is going to be back with the Philadelphia Eagles next season. So we're unanimous. Reed Blankenship is staying. We'll break it down further. This is where we are right now. We're not even in free agency yet, so we'll continue to talk about this, of course, throughout the entire off season. We appreciate you guys dropping by, of course, here on Locked On Eagles Squad Show. Jason Martinez had to run off early. We appreciate you guys hanging with us here. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Louie DiBiase right there has got you covered each and every day with fine Eagles content. So make sure you guys are checking out Louie right there. Harry Mays, Louie DiBiase, Marc Farzetta, and for Jason Martinez, we appreciate you guys dropping in. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Back with you guys on Thursday. See you then.